Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a new week. It's Monday, October 18th. Welcome to a new week and our new week of daily words and our time together and our ongoing conversation about Scripture and what it might mean to us and for us, and then how it calls us to live our lives in response to Scripture. And so it's always good to hear about that and to think about what it is that God's calling us to from Scripture and from God's very presence in our lives. And so it's good to begin a new week. Man, it is chilly this morning when I went to therapy before the sun was even up. It was very cold. I think 37 degrees, my car said. So anyway, it's a beautiful sunny day though, so I'm glad you could join me for our few minutes together. So I shared a bit yesterday in worship. You know, we all struggle in life. We have our own personal situations, our health issues, financial issues, time, issues with our families. Are we ever going to make ends meet? We burn the candles at both ends. We have this ongoing conversation in our lives, and we struggle with all those things. And I struggle physically. It's been a difficult, long journey, culminating in a little bit of surgery on Friday, and I feel so much better. It's interesting. I went to therapy this morning, and I did things at therapy this morning that I haven't done in a long time and couldn't have done just last week. And so, you make progress in those things. But I said yesterday in church, and I still feel this, that, while we all have our own sets of issues, just last week, I said that there are a couple of families who are dealing with loss of pregnancies. And it's very difficult, and my heart breaks for them. And I said in worship yesterday, I sent messages to both of those couples. I actually officiated their weddings and remained close to them. And so offered them my prayers and my love, and if they need me to do anything for them, we in the midst of our lives, we always find out, or at least we seem to find out, that there are multitudes, if you will, of people who struggle, and what that means for us. And the scripture for today, I think, is a powerful message to us and a reminder, I think, of how we're called to live. And if indeed that our community, our church community, our broader community, we have our church community, and then if you're like me, and you are, we have this broader community, of people that we engage our lives with. And I wondered this morning, as I was thinking about all those situations, how we might be transformed if we could understand what the scripture says about wholeness and wellness and being held up in the presence of God. We hear these words from Psalm 34, 17 through 18. When the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears and rescues them from all their troubles. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. I think this scripture is a reminder for us about God's desire to see God's people set free and to have us delivered from situations where we struggle. Now, it doesn't mean, that we're not going to struggle in life. We all will. We have our moments. I said in the funeral on Saturday that I officiated, people usually want and need to hear the words of the 23rd Psalm, and I understand that. And there is this, walking through the valley of the shadow of death. And I said in my message at the funeral on Saturday when I talked about that we indeed walk through, but it's not our destination. We walk through it on the other side. And I'd like to think that in our lives, if we were to be aware of who God is and where God's presence fills us and how it is that we need God in our lives, that we too might understand that the valley that we're in, even if it's not the valley of the shadow of death, but the valley that we seem to live in isn't our destination. We have to go there, it seems, but it's not our destination. Our destination is on the other side of that. And the psalmist reminds us that the Lord is near to the brokenhearted, rescues us from our troubles, and saves the crushed in spirit. You see, the destination then, if we really believe what the Scripture says to us, our destination then is on the other side of the valley. The writer of the Psalm, David, he was transformed. His life was delivered at God's hands. And I think the Scripture reminds us in all of our lives that we are to remain planted by the streams of living water that are found in Jesus. And we're supposed to then live our lives knowing that while we struggle, we find on the other side this bit of deliverance that we hear from the psalmist. And I wonder for us, you and I, if we were to really be able to be transformed and to find in our lives wholeness and wellness. When I went to therapy this morning, I do feel much better. I have much more range of motion. I can walk better. And they all noticed it immediately. And I did some exercises that I couldn't have done. And I'm a little stiff now, but that's okay. That comes with the territory. And I'm reminded, in all of our struggles, that if we understand that God moves in our lives and shapes us, that we do indeed come out on the other side. I have to tell you that there are many days that I've been saying, I'm just stuck. I'm going to be stuck in this valley. I don't know how I'm ever going to get on the other side. And Diane and others and my friends at therapy, they're all saying, nope, Jim, we're going to get there. We're going to get on the other side of this. That's what the Scripture calls us to. That we should know that God delivers us and that we should desire to remain in God's way and to lean on God for all things. And that's hard to do when we are fiercely independent, when we think we can just accomplish everything that we need to. The Scripture says to us that we should rely on God and that God is near to us, the brokenhearted, and saves us, the crushed in spirit. And if we believe that and trust in that, then I think our lives, we then find wholeness and wellness in the midst of all things that are given to us by the presence of God. And so, God's desire is for us to be set free, to be liberated, to be whole and well as we live our lives. And I pray that we'll grab a hold of that and make that part of who we are and what our lives might be if we really, really took hold of what that might mean for us. So I pray that this Scripture is a reminder that we should always lean on God and remain in God's ways and know that God's going to move in all of our lives. So, it's Monday, it's a new week. We're halfway through the month of October. I have therapy every day this week, so it'll be an interesting challenge as we move forward. I pray that you'll know the presence of God in all of your lives. And I pray that the Scripture might help you and help me as we seek to overcome. Know of God's love and grace and mercy in your life. Know of my love for all of you. And I will see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Have a great day.